right, welcome into another day of your daily Devo. My name is Pastor Rick, and we are jumping into John chapter 2, water into wine, the wedding at Cana. So come on along for the journey. In chapter 2, we're going to go all the way to verse 12. On the third day, starting in verse 1, on the third day, a wedding took place in Cana of Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding as well. When the wine ran out, Jesus' mother told him, hey, they don't have any wine. And Jesus just kind of looked at her and he was like, well, what has this concern of yours to do with me, woman? Jesus asked, my hour has not yet come. What is this concern of yours to do with me, woman? And he's kind of like separating himself a little bit with that comment, just being like, hey, what's going on there? And she just responds, do whatever he tells you, his mother told the servants. And so they don't have any wine. She didn't even ask for anything, right? She basically just informed him of the issues. Say, hey, they don't have any wine. And then she just looks at the servants and she's like, hey, do whatever he tells you to do. Because she knew Jesus. She knew how much he cares for people. And so she didn't know necessarily what he was going to do, but she's just like, Jesus, jump on in here. Like, there's no need for this to go down this way. And so let's see what Jesus does, because I don't know. It's one of those things that you could chalk up as like a completely insignificant, no big deal. But weddings, certainly weddings in their day, were a very big deal culturally. So there would have been a lot of honor and shame kind of on the line here with the hosts of the wedding. To run out at the wedding would have been problematic for them. It would have really thrown a lot of shame their direction. It says, now 6 stone water jars had been set there for Jewish purification. Each contained 20 or 30 gallons. And Jesus said to them, fill the jars with water. So they filled them to the brim. Always, I like how they filled them to the brim. They didn't do the job halfway. They're like, all right, Jesus said, fill them with the water. We're going to fill them all the way to the very top. I just think that's a great attitude for us to take when we're obeying the Lord, when we're doing our work. Whatever your hand finds to do, honestly, whatever your hand finds to do it heartily as unto the Lord. Do the work to the fullest extent you can possibly do it, because you never know what's going to end up with that labor that you're putting in, and God works with what we offer him, and so make sure you're giving your best. And then he said to them, now draw some out and take it to the head waiter. And they did. And so, I maybe don't skip past the fact that they just continued to do what he said. Even though maybe it's still not making sense. So like, Jesus, it's water. Like, potential embarrassment. Maybe they could smell it. I don't know. But it doesn't say anything like that. So potential embarrassment here, you go up and you take a big old ladle full of just water to the head waiter. I mean, they probably worked for this head waiter, had some level of, their reputation and their work ethic and all that kind of on the line here. And yet they just did what Jesus said. Because Mary said, hey, do whatever this guy tells you to do. It's such a good thing for us to live by. Just do whatever Jesus tells you to do. Do whatever Jesus tells you to do, regardless of whether you think it makes sense or not, because obeying Jesus is the best policy. It's the best thing to do. Do what Jesus says. When the head waiter tasted the water after it had become wine, he did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, and he called the groom. So the head waiter calls the groom over and he tells him, hey, everyone sets out the fine wine first. Then, after people are drunk, the inferior is then served. But you have kept the fine wine until now. So Jesus didn't just make Franzia, wine in a box, or White Claw. No, I don't know. He didn't make the cheap stuff. Like, he made the, I imagine it was around 30 AD. So it'd have been like, 527 BC. That was a good year, that's kind of what they were saying. Like, this is some old wine, it's been aged well. And, just for such a time as this, you've kept the finest wine until now, because Jesus only does the best. Jesus is the best, and so from him only comes the best. Jesus did this first of his signs in Cana of Galilee, and he revealed his glory. And it's just one more step in the journey of his disciples believing in him. Now, it's good to recognize that this didn't just solve their faith journey, believing in Jesus as the Son of God. They still had moments along the way where they kind of doubted and kind of had their challenges, but it was one of the pieces that helped them to believe in Jesus, because he began to reveal some of his glory. And it can be a really great prayer for us to pray to the Lord as we're growing in our relationship with the Lord, to just say, Lord, show me your glory. Lord, reveal to me your glory. Reveal to me who you are. Because the more that we know him, the more that we can trust him. The more we trust him, the easier it is to obey him. The more we obey him, the more we just kind of receive the blessing of obedience in our lives, because obedience just has this natural blessing that follows it. So it says that this is his first, the first of his signs. So I thought we'd just do a quick little look at the 7 signs that are mentioned in the book of John. Obviously, Jesus did more than this. But for some reason, these are the 7 specific ones that John pulled out to draw attention to, really to point to the identity of who Jesus is. The water into wine at Cana, we just read about. Healing of the nobleman's son, I believe it's in about chapter 4. Healing the man at the pool, feeding the 5,000, walking on water, healing a man born blind, and the resurrection of Lazarus. And so as you're seeing the I am statements, a lot of the I am statements, anyway, in a way, kind of end up correlating a little bit with some of the signs. And then, of course, he uses the number 7, the number of completeness, the number of fullness, the perfection, really to just say, like, hey, there's these 7 I am statements kind of correlating back to God revealing himself to Abraham and saying, I am. And then Jesus coming in and being like, I am this, I am that, I am that, the way, the truth, and the life. So we're going to watch out for all of these signs as we go through the book of John and just kind of take a look at them and see what they have to say. Verse 12, our final verse in today's little section. After this, he went down to Capernaum together with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, and they stayed there only a few days. So just kind of a recap, Jesus has authority over all natural things. Here he demonstrates his authority over water, over, just the elements of the world. He's got control over it. Jesus isn't opposed to a good party. Like, he was at the party. He wasn't standing there shaming people and what have you, but he actually helped make the party a success by caring for them. Jesus cares for people. Jesus wasn't making wine so that they would have more wine to be drunk on or anything like that. Jesus was making wine to honor the hosts, to show that he cares about even these kinds of things. And so Jesus cares for people. So it reminds me when the Bible tells us that you can cast your cares on him because he cares for you. Like, this whole story, this account comes up in my mind to help prove, like, yeah, Jesus does care for people. He does love people. It's powerful. And then obeying Jesus is the best policy. Mary hadn't even asked Jesus to do anything specific. Then she turns to the servants and just says, hey, do whatever he says. So good policy for us. I'm here telling you, whatever Jesus tells you to do whatever he says. Do whatever Jesus says. It's the best policy. Hope you're encouraged today. Have a great day. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.